farming was perhaps considered a lifestyle, but it's certainly a business.
IoT allows you to have this view of everything that's going on all the time, right in front of you, anywhere in the world.
The adoption rate of AgTech is really dependent on the skill set of the user of the technology.
You got to measure it, you got to manage it. That's where the data side of things comes into play.
These guys are hungry for something new. They're hungry for data. They're hungry for any sort of new technology that can give them the edge.
Global agriculture is changing. In a world racing towards an ever-growing population, where the demand for sustenance looms larger than ever, the pressures on farmers to produce more with less is becoming more critical than ever before. This challenge, combined with a shrinking agricultural workforce, is fueling the rise of agtech. And amidst this transformational landscape is the Internet of Things, a technology that is fast becoming the backbone of modern farming practices.
The simplest way to think about the Internet of Things is sensors that are connected to the Internet. So if I have something measuring soil moisture or how much water is in my turkey nest or trough, and that data is then being relayed back to my computer using the Internet as a medium for transfer.
When I think about IoT in everyday life, most people, particularly in metropolitan areas, are using it without thinking about it through smartphones and watches, and equally through a variety of mechanisms that people don't think about, particularly through traffic systems and getting around their day-to-day activities.
In a farming environment, the Internet of Things can start with the basic manufacturing industry-like things. Our sheds, our doors, our devices in our buildings. But every machine is a thing. Parts of a machine, the yield coming off a crop is potentially a thing that needs to be measured. But of course, every animal on our livestock farms is a thing, dare I say it, which can be measured and monitored.
I have a brother in the Territory. A third of his life was driving around checking troughs to make sure there's water in the troughs for the cattle. With the Internet of Things, we put a camera on each of those troughs, and he gets up in the morning and he looks at his screens and he knows that they've got water in them. That's a huge increase in productivity, and more importantly, it's a huge increase in lifestyle.
Well, it's the old adage, you can manage what you measure, and if you're not measuring it, it's really difficult to manage it. So you want to know and have confidence, and typically that when I talk to adopters of AgTech, it is the added confidence that they have that enriches what was otherwise really a gut feeling, and so measuring gives you confidence.
Farmers measure things because A, it helps them understand the system today or where it's going to be tomorrow. B, it allows them to forecast, whether it be for making tactical decisions right here and now, or tomorrow, next month, next year. At the end of the day, data is power. Why? Because power is decisions. And so where our measurements really play a role, where Internet of Things, where precision agriculture really plays a role, is in data-fueled decision making.
These guys here are not launching a space shuttle. They're all part of the Red Bull F1 race team, right? They're all getting a whole heap of data and working together as a team to try and help this guy make better decisions. The IoT is more like the dashboard in the cockpit, right? Don't hide the data, show it.
One organisation that is actively bringing IoT solutions to the farming sector is INCYT, a leading Australian agtech company founded by Simon Bly, a technology entrepreneur from farming stock. INCYT has selected Griffith as a testing ground for IoT solutions developed specifically for rugged farming environments.
So we're working with farmers in Griffith to help give us feedback on a range of different areas, from water monitoring through to microclimate and weather data, spray advisory and inversion risk. And we were really looking to find properties and operators who would be able to give us great feedback in a collaborative way that helps us to optimise what we're doing and focus our R&D on the right things.
Griffith is a fantastic place to work. The guys out there are at the forefront of precision agriculture. Like, these guys are hungry for something new. They're hungry for data. They're hungry for any sort of new technology that can give them the edge, and are ready to adopt and apply these new techniques and these new systems to give them that incremental improvement on their operations that they can do.
Fitz Farming, located 35 kilometres north of Griffith, is working with INCYT to help further develop farming IoT solutions for both national and global agricultural markets.
This property started under Pfitzner's, under us, in 1965 when Grandpa bought it from when he moved over from South Australia. The land was uncleared, particularly in this bottom block here, so there was a lot of work to just preparing it to produce a crop.
Location, we're 35 k's north of Griffith. It's red sandy loam soil. We farm 3,300 hectares, a mix of crops: wheat, barley, canola, lupins, peas, vetch, bit of a muesli bar really.
Well, initially we only grew wheat, and we were clearing the country as well. You know, we had to develop it.
Yeah, Dad, I'd consider him very innovative through his farming career. Used to frustrate me a little bit at times. We'd do something, but we'd never do it the same way. He was always looking to do things better, or not necessarily just to do them different, but just to improve on what we'd done.
My attitude's always been that we've got to be able to do it easier and better. And so it's been a gradual improvement, like modern technology and the computer systems and GPS and all that. It's really made an amazing difference to what we can do.
With an ongoing appetite for improvement, Fitz Farming have been implementing sensors across their farm for environmental monitoring applications.
Yeah, so INCYT, we were introduced to them through our agronomist. It was through the inversion tower, and then from there it sort of springboarded into a few other different projects.
You know, one thing led to another, I guess, to the point now where we've got 2 weather stations, we've got a moisture probe, we've got water tank monitoring in rainwater tanks, spray tanks, we've got a weather station on the boom spray, as well as pressure sensors on our water infrastructure, so quite a bit of stuff, yeah.
When it comes to IoT in agriculture, we've got a few common categories that we see going on. One is water infrastructure. You've got common problems. Wherever you've got pumps, pipes, troughs, tanks, irrigation systems, you're going to have issues, right? There's going to be leaks, there's going to be breaks, there's going to be pumps that aren't primed. There are all these challenges that go in this ecosystem of what is just water reticulation and irrigation systems.
We've had a motto for a long time that we're farming moisture. That's what we actually farm. We grow crops, but at the end of the day, farming moisture. Now, as a rule, we're in a marginal area, so it's important that, you know, we capture the rainfall, we store it, and enable the soil for the crops to actually extract that moisture.
So we've got a few different sensors for water. I've never actually looked inside this tank before. They're on a variety of tanks. Some of them are on rainwater tanks, some of them are on stock and domestic tanks. Those tanks will feed into our sprays when we're doing spray jobs. So what they tell us is the level of those tanks, particularly, you know, if we're trying to spray with rainwater, well, that's a limited supply, so if we know how much we've got, then we can plan for that. I believe in the ground here there'd be a couple of flow meters and water pressure sensors. The other thing it tells us too is if there's a problem with the system, so let's say there's a leakage in a pipe or a supply problem, then we get an alert for that, so we know what's happened. I mean, if we don't have water, there's major consequences as a result of it. We don't have any town supply of water, we don't have a river system nearby to us, so it's crucial that we know what we got and we can change habits if need be as a result of it. Not only that, we've got a water scheme as well, and we want that to be operating as best as possible. It's servicing several farms, and if there's an issue, well, we've got data to tell the group, if there's something on our end that can be fixed or needs fixing, well, we've got evidence to show that.
Another category is microclimate and weather data. So weather is particularly important to our decision making. The ability to predict it, the ability to know the outcome of, say, a rain event, because a certain amount of rain is not necessarily the same one day to another because of the way that it might evaporate or whatever the existing soil moisture is.
Weather station will combine things like humidity, wind speed, direction, rainfall, and those sorts of traditional things that you would expect from a weather station. And we've got 3 weather stations on the farm here, strewn across the farm from one end to the other. So we have a reasonable idea of what the weather's doing wherever it is.
Weather can be different on the other end of the farm, where it's impacted by different environmental conditions. So it's important to understand, okay, if the weather's fine here when we're batching up and filling up our sprayer, is it the same weather that we're going to experience when we actually get to the paddock?
The weather station data helps us when we're on a job spraying. If we want to spray a paddock, for example, and we've got limitations in the window that we can spray, for example, it might be time. You then have another constraint, maybe that you've got a front coming or something like that, and you've got a job to do, because if you don't do it, then the next opportunity may be too late.
We don't want to impact on neighbouring properties, or if we're talking inversion and talking spraying, drift can actually travel kilometres.
We don't want our chemicals to go anywhere else but the target that we were trying to get. So you're constantly monitoring whilst you're in the field what that weather's doing to make sure that you're still within your parameters. And that might be when you come back from a paddock and you're about to load up, you can still look at that weather station that might be 5-10 k's away and see if it's still okay to spray, and if it's not, well, you can pull the pin on it.
And conditions aren't always perfect, so we need to understand where the limits are and how far, what's our window. And then I guess the technology in all that also gives you a predictive tool as to what the weather's going to be like in 1 or 2 hours.
Without localised data, what we would probably do is look at, BOM, weather zone, elders, those different things. But the closest weather station to that would be Griffith, which is 35 k's away. And as we've learnt, there's quite the variation between there and here. There's challenges in that. So yeah, in the past it would have been a weather station further away, and that's what you've got, so that's what you run with.
Agriculture is well suited to IoT because a farmer can't be everywhere all the time. They can't be 1.2 metres under the ground. They can't be there at 2 o'clock in the morning when mice are running around the field. You can't know everything that's going on all the time, and so therefore you can't manage it well, or you manage it in a more inefficient way.
Well, I mean, Australian conditions are tough. We've got a lot of land, we've got a vast country, and our operations are actually quite large here.
The amount of land that we need to cover, as an operator of a farming organisation, is such that you're limited in your exposure to what's going on, and you're often the jobs or the things that you might need to be doing or checking can be large distances. So IoT allows you to have this view of everything that's going on all the time, right in front of you, anywhere in the world. Right, and that means you can make better decisions, you can control risk better, and you can, if you're running a small team or a large team of people, you can start delegating in a way that's more effective.
With IoT now firmly in place as an essential tool for enhancing decisions, how do the Pfitzner see the future of their farm in this new age of digital transformation?
Yeah, no, Michael's done a terrific job in where he's gone with it, and to see all the straight lines and all that sort of thing in the paddocks these days, which is common all over the country. In the 90s it certainly wasn't, because I always had excuses that I had stumps to go around, so that was a bit different. But
look, technology gives us, I guess, more tools, more information to be able to make better decisions. I guess you can still run without it. But you know, you might be just guessing or using someone else's advice. This is what you should do.
I like the saying, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And that's quite true for farming. If you want to try and continue to progress and get better at the job that you're doing, you got to measure it, you got to manage it, and that's where the data side of things comes into play.
So my son Drew is, I guess, a lot more intuitive, as younger generations are, with the way technology's evolved. So a lot of the mechanics of how things work are a lot simpler for him, even though, you know, I've been brought up with technology most of my life. But you know, the way things evolve, for the younger generation, it does become more intuitive. So
they're way better farmers than I ever was.
Why is that?
Well, they got technology to work with and they're using it. I'm just amazed at the last few years, the crops they've grown and what they've been able to do. If we were happy with 1.5 tonne to the hectare when I started, that's not even a payable crop anymore.
I mean, Grandpa would have only dreamed of sitting in an air-conditioned cab. You know, he didn't have that at the start.
I've seen an enormous change in my lifetime, because my dad did have horses. I don't actually remember them. He bought his first tractor in 1948, so that's a major difference to where we are today. It's not a long period of time. It's only one lifetime, really. There's so much intelligence out there to improve things and make it work and whatever. So look, it'll be interesting how it goes. Terribly exciting.
Transitioning into new technology requires time, and the pace of adoption is often influenced by the technical expertise of the end user. But how does this dynamic apply to agtech? And more specifically, the Internet of Things.
IoT, or Internet of Things devices like sensors, you know, farmers are literally buying them up by the tens, by the hundreds, right? But there is a challenge, of course. You throw them out, you've got to do something with them, right? They've got to be connected, they've got to be maintained.
The adoption rate of agtech is really dependent on the skill set of the user of the technology. Farmers are really quick to investigate a new solution, but they're also pretty quick to work out whether that's going to work for their business or not. And a fundamental tool that you need to make agtech work is a skilled workforce.
So the generation of farmers coming through now have grown up with the internet. They've grown up with a computer. They get it, they understand it, they know how to operate it. They are amazingly comfortable sitting in a tractor with 5 screens, and it doesn't seem to intimidate them, and they seem to take to it very naturally.
So we've got about 6 of our staff here are sort of less than 35 years old. So for them, technology's a given. And for us, who are perhaps, you know, on the other side of 50, you know, we've realised these tools are so important.
As we see the transition of ownership and succession move through agriculture, and we see new and next generation workers and family members coming through and taking over some of these properties, they're more digitally native and consequently more inclined to want to either create or work with a technology solution. So we're kind of waiting for that next gen to come through that are more digital natives, and that will see an acceleration of adoption of technology for sure.
Pull that out like that, see? See if you can do that one. Try that one.